Welcome to Kevjet, the podcast. Psychic medium David Maddock.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me. I know you're a little bit under the weather. We're both a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, throat. Yeah, so I do apologise.
But we're going to go with it and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for joining me on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes,
You're
yes.
not out at the pub having a Sunday roast.
No, not today. No, we went out last night. Megan's a performer, a singer, my fiance, and so we was out last night supporting Megan with a band, and it was a great night. So
Amazing. Amazing. So it's a
yeah,
rest day.
it's a rest day today.
And
So
you're also on tour.
yes, got shows up and down the country. And yeah, just forever growing and seeing where it leads, hitting different areas, different venues.
So I recently saw your show in London, in Leicester Square.
Yes, yes.
What was that experience like for you?
For me, it was phenomenal. If I was to put it into one word, the word would be phenomenal. And I say that because the audience, the the people, it was so well received, and I just yeah, it was just a great evening all round. And thank you to everybody that came along, including yourself. Um,
I had a very
but
eclectic group with me, so
yeah, yeah, but yeah, it was just great, and I just felt it was well received and really appreciated. And I touched a lot of people in that night, and not only the people that was read for, but I believe the people that weren't read for actually took something away from it as well, which is kind of like what I always advise or want people to kind of do is, even if you're not read for in an audience live show, but at least to take away that experience, and we all take something away from it.
of course. And that's one thing that sort of happens. I think it's probably a common thing is there's probably always that one person that is so desperate to have a reading,
Yeah,
and it doesn't happen. But I have to say, I kind of hung around afterwards and I was able to listen to the different conversations in the room, and they were all very positive, and everyone was really impressed. And like you said, the people that didn't actually have a personal reading, they took a message from everything that you
yeah,
said.
yeah, and that's what I love, and that's what I love about the work that I do, especially being on, a live show. I clearly can't, when there's hundreds, 200, whatever amount of people in a room, there's no way I can reach every single person. But what I hope to do is that the people who are not read for still take something away from it. And I remember I did a show in down south. It was Exmouth or Eastbourne. I can't recall which show. And I remember at the end, I was doing the meet and greet, so everybody gets the opportunity to say hello to me. Everybody, like one person at every live show that I do, I try and do a competition where they get the chance to have a free reading. We do that random draw, and this guy anyway come to meet me, and he went, "Young lad," and I remember him saying "young lad," by the way, Kevin. So I'm not just saying that. He said "young lad." He said, "What?" He says, "You have just wiped out my 50-year belief system in one night." He said, I need to go home and digest what you've just done. He said, "I wasn't read for." He said, "But whatever you've got it." And he said, "I don't know what it is." And he said, "But you've got it." And it was such kind words. And I'm reaching a lot more male audience as well, Kevin. A lot more. And I love the fact that men are now starting to become more comfortable to approach me to come to these kind of shows, because I think that the word psychic and this work does have its kind of stigma, if that's the word that we want to use, attached to it. And I just feel that it's broadening out now to a bigger audience. And people who, like what you just said, who are not, even if people are not like, okay, I don't want to be read for, but I want to see what it's all about. And I think that's really good as well, because I think that they do take a lot from it as well.
Definitely. And just talking about men coming to the show, because
Yeah,
men are probably the ones that don't want to talk about their feelings. So if you hit
yeah,
something, they're going to feel it.
yeah. Well, if you was at the London show, Kevin, you'll recall. the guy that was skeptical, I remember he actually got a reading and he was
That's
looking at me
right.
like, yeah. And I was like, oh, so you're the skeptical guy? And he was like, yeah. And then I said, your mum's, I think it was your mum and all this. And he was just like looking at me like, how on earth does he know this? And but he was so open, and that's what I mean about the whole audience in general was just so open that it was just a lovely, lovely vibe, and I can't wait to be back in London. So yeah,
I love the energy about you during the show because it's a very fast-paced show. You speak very quickly when you're
yeah,
receiving messages, and
yeah,
you're very direct with the people in the audience as well. And I love
yeah,
that because it's like it sets everyone at ease in a way. And I know you
yeah,
apologize and you're like, sorry, I'm not coming across as being rude, but because you're direct with them. But I being sat in the audience, it sort of puts you at ease because it makes you feel like you're the one in control. And
yeah,
if you're having the message read, you're
yeah.
not feeling that pressure of having to explain yourself because you tell them not to explain themselves.
Yeah. And there's things that there's a few things that I can add to that, Kevin. Is that when I do a live show, for example, or a private reading, and we want to hear from that one person, and I explained at the show about like how we want to hear from the one person and whoever it may be. And then what we have a tendency of doing is because we're so desperate at times to hear from that person, we will move the earth to make, yeah, that fits there. I'm saying Bob, but you're like, no, that's Mary. I know it's Mary. I know it's Mary. And that's why I'm so particular of like, be quiet, shut up, don't tell me. I'm not being rude. It's because I want the information to come from the way I'm seeing it, not the way that you would like it to be, because there's going to be a deeper reason for that as well. And yeah, no, I just like people to know what I like to do. Kevin, prime example is maybe yourself got the same experience, and maybe that guy that I was talking about 2 minutes ago, where even if you're not read for, and I'm telling people to be quiet, and like I'm not allowing people to even like Megan always says to me, "Look, Dave, you are not giving people a chance to answer." I said, "But I don't need them to," and I know I don't mean it rude. All I need is a simple yes, no, whatever. Let's move on. And the thing is, Kevin, I love. I'm so compassionate about this work, and I'm very passionate about the work as well. And um, the one thing is when I'm on that stage or when I'm doing a private reading or a group reading, it's not about me. I explain the story about my ego, how I learned that valuable lesson at my live show, and it's the same now that when I do this work, it's not about me. Like, oh my god, can you believe I said that? Oh, let's stroke his ego. No, it's like I've said it. Let's move on. And trust me, Kevin, information comes through that fast. I don't get time to breathe. And you saw that for yourself as well, which is good.
I did. I definitely did. And how do you shut that off in your everyday life?
Through meditation and prayer. And so, for example, Kevin, if you in your house, in your home, you turn the light on to go to a room. If you go to the bathroom, but you turn the light off, why do you turn the light off? Because it burns electricity. The bulb's going to drain. So you've got to be professional. You've got to turn it on, turn it off, and know when to do it. When's the right time to open up? There might be times when, if I know somebody's open to this work, I might get a sense of something instantly. I might be like, oh, I'm seeing a little bit of like, there's a little bit of a warning sign here, or there's a little bit of something. As long as that person's open to it, then I kind of just, I'll let you know that little bit of a snippet. But apart from that, I keep it where it needs to be, and I'll keep myself very well protected. You have to,
That's one of my questions is out in your day-to-day life, if you're
yeah.
at Waitrose and you walk past a woman and you suddenly have the urge to tell her something, is that something you would do?
No, it's not, because I'm going to contradict myself here. So just bear with me. Let me just
Yeah,
explain this. I went to Morrison's. First things first, no, I don't. Let me just answer that part of the question.
sure.
No. And the reason being is because I don't want to invade somebody else's privacy. So, for example, somebody's lost a mom, dad, nan, granddad, whoever it may be. They might be in a serious place of grief. You don't know what position of grief they're at, what stage they're at. So if then I go open like, oh, by the way, da da da, they might be like, um, Or it could be the other side that like they have lost a dad, but they've just recently lost the mom. They want to hear from the mom, and then you talk about the dad. You're like, oh, your dad. They might that you'll then leave them like, well, why didn't my mom say like, why, what, you know? And I always explain this like when people come to me for a private reading, we sit down, we talk about what's going to happen before we even dive into it, and I make sure that they're in the right place because there's been numerous times where I've actually said to clients like, now's not the right time. You're not in the right place. Have a refund, come back to see me when the time's right. And I think for yourself and all your listeners, grief is the hardest thing that we have to deal with while we're here.
Mhm.
And it's all about making sure that you're in the right place. You're prepared to go for reading because you just never know who's going to come through. And then, well, the reason I said about contradicting myself, Kevin, is I was walking around Morrison's. Now, when I first began this in the Black Country, from the accent, clearly, I'm from the Black Country, and when I started this journey, and it was like mum's friends, and then it was like mum's friends of friends, and then it was friends, and it started to grow. This one time, I've never felt it. I may have felt it a couple of times, but I've just always, like I said, never again. I was walking around Morrison's, and I remember this lady. She was by the magazine aisle. I'll never forget it. And I walked past her, and I had this urge of like, I'm being pulled to the lady. When I say being pulled, you know what I mean. When because you've
Mhm.
seen the show, I get pulled to an area. I'll
Mhm.
get that same intuitive. So I was pulled to this lady, and I was like, really? And it was like I need to speak to this lady. And then the closer I got, I was like, "A mom's passed. A mom's okay. A mom's okay." And it was just this constant feeling. And I remember, I think I like accidentally on purpose like nudged this way, or did something to get her attention. I went, "I'm so sorry," and she just looked at me. And you know when I say in an audience, Kevin, like, can you just say a word? I always had somebody just speak into the microphone so I can hear your voice. That triggers to me like, yeah, I'm there, or I'm a little bit unsure. And that's what I got from this lady. I was like, yeah, this, and I just said, I've got a mom energy coming through. So the mom's passed all ground. It feels more mom. And she's telling me to tell you that she's okay, but that's all I've got. And I'm so sorry. I do readings. I've never done this before. And this lady, tears just come into her eyes. And she says, you have just saved my life. And I was like, what? And she said, my mom's just passed to cancer. And she says, and before she passed, I said, just give me a sign that you're okay. She went, that's all I want is just to know you're okay. And that was the words I used. And like I didn't get a name or anything. She just said thank you and walked off. I think she was just full of emotion, and she just walked off. And I just kind of like stood there and had all these like, did I do the right thing and whatever else. But the fact that she said I saved her life, I just felt like that's the reason. But that's the only time of it, and I just wouldn't do it again, Kevin. I think it's just a little bit unprofessional. And again, I've got to think, but there's got to be a reason why that particular day it was like, say it, do it, move on. But yeah,
And you'll always remember that.
most definitely.
Amazing. Let's go into the moment you were hit by a car.
Yeah,
Were you 14?
yes, yes, I was.
Tell me
I
about that.
was. Still quite raw even now, and I'm 38, 39 this month. Me and my best friend from school, we was walking to town, which was a couple of mile away, walking to town, and on the way back, I crossed over by the Black Country Museum, and there was a big Arctic like parked on the dual carriageway, and when I've looked, there weren't no cars there. But what I didn't see was beyond this Arctic was a speeding car. Well, and I say speeding, they owned up to the fact that they was going above 40. I think they said they was going 50. And the police said whenever somebody admits to them going over, you can normally add like 10 to 15 mile an hour extra on top. And he'd just come back from hospital himself. This guy he got a patch on his eye. So anyway, I've come out in front of this van. The car's hit me, and my best friend said it was like watching a bouncing ball just bounce all over the place. He said you bounced off the windscreen, the bonnet, hit your head off the floor, and he said I just thought I've just watched my best friend die. And I have no recollection of it. I just remember the tap on my leg, and I was gone. I was knocked out. Um, I try not to dramatise the subject, the work that I do, and I think you've got that from the show as well. And I
Mhm.
hope all your listeners kind of get the gist of that. So I try not to dramatise it because I think there's a lot of that that goes on, especially on TikTok. Like go over to TikTok if you want dramatisation.
Yeah.
Go and have a look over TikTok. There's plenty of that. Anyway, um, so I always still to this day see this vision of I remember seeing the floor, myself, everything. It was like a, and it was just this moment. I had no arms or legs. It was just this scene, and I just had this like flash of this energy of like now's not your time. I didn't see anybody. I didn't. You know, there's no. All I got was it's now is not your time. And I remember waking up. And the ironic thing about this is that where I got hit by the car, my dad was working on the roads, and my dad always used to work away a lot, and he'd work all up and down the country and everything. And this particular day, he was working on the street next to where I got hit. So like I got hit here, and my best friend run down the road and my dad was there, and like it was just yeah. And I truthfully think that's what opened me up to this work. I really do. I think that's what was the start of it, opening me up to this work, and then a few other things happened in place to get my attention. Yeah, that was the car accident, and I think that's what opened me up. So after this, life carried on as normal. I got up out of the hospital the same day. The doctors just said, like, we can't believe that you're walking out of here, like, you know, with a broken toe. All I complained about was my toe, nothing else. I had a few minor scratches. I chipped my elbow. I had a few cuts on my head. A dent in my knee. My knee's got a dent, so where the bone didn't break, it bent. And they was at one point going to pin it and everything else, but then they said it might cause me more issues further down the line. So they just said it's not worth messing with. So they said they was going to look at putting pins in and whatever else, but like I said, they just said it weren't worth it. And anyway, a couple of years passed, and I was always intrigued by the work, tarot cards, angel cards, you know, spiritual work. To
Hmm.
me, back then, it was more about tarot cards, and my mum used to do them, but only for herself and maybe a couple of friends. It was nothing deep. And I remember my mum, for the first time, let me go with her to a psychic fair, and this lady said, "Give me this reading," and just said, "Look, Dave, you're gonna help people all around the world." And at this point, Kevin, I was like, hang on a minute, are you trying to get me some part of some witch cult? You know, I went to this place of like, what's this that you're talking about? And my head went to that place of like, I'm going to do this. And back then as well, Kevin, there was no like, I don't even think MySpace was a thing. So there's no like Facebook, social
Sure.
media. So how am you going to reach around the world? And I thought you'd have to be on TV or ITV or the Sky TV. And I kind of pushed it off. And then I saw another lady not so long after, same things again. And then another lady. And then I went back to my mum after the third lady and said, "Mum," and then I ended up reading for my mum. And the funny thing is, I sat there and read for my mum, and I was like, I felt this energy. And do you know when um, you see somebody down the street and you're like, I know the face, but I can't remember the name, and you have that awkward moment of like, hello. I went back to my mum, and when I was reading for my mum, I said I felt this energy before, and she says how, and this was her mum that was coming through, and it turned out that um, it, the same energy that I felt was the energy that I felt when I got hit by the car. So it was her mum that I feel was there and protected me that day.
Sure.
So yeah, yeah, and
Wow.
that yeah, and then yeah, it just grew from there really.
In your show, you say you see symbols. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you learn what each symbol means to you, or is that a natural thing that just happened?
Yeah, that's just a natural thing that happened, and it still happens to this day. Like I'm forever learning. We're always learning,
Sure.
and so for example, I could say bananas for you, Kevin, and then the symbol for that could be, does that mean Kevin likes them? Does he not? So and then I try and symbolise like how do I feel about the bananas? What's my intuition telling me about that? But from experience now, because when you do in and out daily and so often, you build a relationship of understanding what what each thing means. So that's why I'm a lot more fluent. I was reading for a lady, and I kept seeing giraffes, and the feeling I got, Kevin, was thank you for the giraffes. So this gratitude feeling, I was like, there's no way you've just brought a giraffe. So I remember saying to the lady, I said, "Are we going to the zoo?" She went, "No." "Safari?" "No." "A farm?" "No." "Dave, why do you keep asking me about animals?" And I said, "Because your mum's tended to say thank you for the drafts, and obviously you haven't just purchased a draft." She started crying and she went, no, but what I have just purchased are vases with giraffes on that my mum wanted to purchase before she passed, but she never got round to getting them. So she said the other week I brought them in remembrance for my mum. So it was symbolically her mum's way of like, thank you for the giraffes, thank you for the vases. So not everything might not be as pinpoint accurate as what you would want it to be, but you should understand the information being given.
Wow. So some people might say, so let's get into like people who are skeptics. So some people might say, why doesn't my loved one just come out and ask the question, or tell me the direct message? Like, why are they giving symbols?
Yeah. Okay.
So
So you're asking why they don't?
yeah, so if someone asked you that question, how would you
Yeah.
answer that?
Well, I can only go for what I receive in terms of the information. That's, think of it like a download, and it's really strange because it don't work both ways. Sometimes it can, and the reason I don't like it too is because we then start putting our logical brain into it of like what would we want the answer to be, what would, and then it becomes a me thing instead of a you thing, and then that's the part that I don't like. So that's why I'm so and also I think people need to get this kind of image out their head of remembering that when we pass, we don't take the body with us. We don't take the eyes with us. We don't take the senses with us. It's a continuation of the conscious mind. So it's something a lot more deeper than just, oh well, they're past. And I think through dramatization over years and everything else, that's why people feel the way that they do. So yeah, I hope that kind of answers that.
Yeah, um, it certainly does. So you do private readings.
Yes.
Um, how do you deal with somebody that comes in that's a skeptic and they come in with the attitude, this is crazy. You're not going to tell me you're not going to tell me anything that's going to be relevant.
Well,
If they just come in with a negative attitude,
uh,
how does that work?
well, it doesn't really bother me, Kevin. And I know that sounds really rude, but they're not going to be as skeptical as what I am on myself in terms of like that's my job to kind of be that way. And because you've seen the live show, I can speak more freely
Mm-hmm.
about it because you understand it more. um, when people come with a skeptical mindset, I always say to be skeptical is actually a good thing because if you're so open to whatever anybody says, anybody in the world can say something to you. So I always say go in there with a little bit of a skeptical mindset. And going back to what you were saying about like their attitude of like, oh blah blah blah, I will literally cut you off. I will say no. And the reason being is because it doesn't matter what, you're not here to have a reason or get the comfort that I'm trying to provide, or you're not interested in that. You're trying to debunk me, and by doing that, you're just wasting my time. So I haven't got the time for it. So there's a difference between being skeptical and rude.
Mm-hmm.
Bad manners. Manners don't cost a thing. So I just think, like, if I get that vibe from you that you're just being awkward, then I will just say, like, let's just leave it to that and go
Mm-hmm.
and find somebody else that's more suited for you. And you know, and there is times even for the people that are open, I haven't got a connection. I'm like, you know, I'm struggling. Like I'm really, you know, for whatever reason. And I always advise you can either postpone the session or go and seek another professional. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. How does your psychic abilities, how does it affect your personal life? Or does it?
Um, it, yeah, it does. To be honest, and me and Megan again, my fiance was talking about this the other day. I'm a nightmare for one positive thinking. I don't allow negativity. Like you know, if I see a negative, I'll try my utmost best to okay, glass half full, and you know what's the universe trying to teach me from this? Not why me. I'm like okay, this is bad, this is tough, but what do I need to learn from it? But then also, I'm an absolute nightmare, Kevin, for like when we're on a journey for something. There's the beginning, the middle, the end. With me, we're at the beginning, but I'm already at. So think of it like letters A, B, C.
Mm-hmm.
We're at A, but I'm already at C. Like I know where this is going. The trouble is, oh Kevin, I don't go through B, and this is where, like intuitively, I know where it's going to be. But sometimes it's like you can have that intuition. You can have the ability of like, okay, I know this is going to happen, or I have this feeling of like this is the right thing. but then you've got to go through you know, you've got to go through the slow process. You've got to go through the building, the foundation. You've got to go through the shit. Sorry for my language, but
Yeah.
you've got to go through these things to build and prepare you. And sometimes where I struggle is that I'm already at sea. Like I don't want to do B, you know, and it's like in my head. But then the reality, I'm like, and that's where Megan will be like, Dave, and we always joke about now. She's like, Dave, you're skipping B. You're skipping B, and that goes for anybody who's very very intuitive. Will get frustrated when things don't go the way because they know that's where they should be or what they should be doing, but then it's like they're skipping out B, like, and that's where the ability that I've got kind of, you know, not get in the way, but just, you know, I skip B, skip B. I hope that analogy helps anyway.
Yeah. Do you give messages to your family members?
I read for my mom. I've read for my sister. Um, and apart from that, not really. And the reason being is because I'd rather them see someone else because I like a blank canvas. Like, if you come to see me, I want to be the artist. I don't want a canvas that I already know elements because then again your logical brain starts kicking in. You know what you, because you know that person. You want to be like, I'll say this now again. If I see a warning sign, if I see something, you know, I mean, if you're okay with me saying, just before we began this podcast,
Yep.
that something like I was like, Kevin, da da da,
Yep.
and so that's what it's like for me. If I sense that, if I feel that, then yeah. But my family now have just learned, especially my mom. She's learned now that like Dave will do whatever Dave wants to do, good or bad. It doesn't matter what advice she gives me, and I love my mom and my parents and my family to bits. But they all know now that like there's no point because Dave's just gonna like. And the other thing as well, I want to learn from my own mistakes. So if somebody says to me, you can't do that, okay, well, if I can't, then I'll find out my own way. So then at least I can say I've tried. So I always advise people, and if anybody's listening now, Kevin, I want them to, you know, if there's something, a goal, a dream, anything at all, like nothing's impossible. And just get your head down and just do it, and don't allow everybody else level of thinking like stop you from where you want to be. And even if you fail, it doesn't matter because you never lose, you learn. So you know, there's going to be things that you're probably being pulled to that because there might be something you've got to learn from that mistake for you then to be like, oh, okay, no, you know.
I love that. And you always end your show on a positive note as well with a little bit of meditation. And just as I say that, I don't want people to think, oh, that's a bit strange, because it's a positive message that you give the audience uh, to finalize the show. And I think that's what puts everybody at ease. And
Yeah,
but is it also a way for yourself to leave the show at ease?
yeah, yeah, and bring everybody back down. And also, one, I like to help as many people as I can. So if I can't reach them all, I'll find another way to reach everybody in that room. The breathing technique is just a simple thing that I implement so that when people do leave, if they are having a bit of road rage, they can go, oh, I remember David's show. I'm meant to do the breathing technique. But also, I think it brings everybody together. And I care so much about the people that I've been read for. They're going to be up in their heads. Like, there's a lot like to take on. And I think unless you experience it yourself, it's hard to put into words, like, because you know this isn't like me saying, "Oh, your mom loves you, your dad loves you." It's the nitty gritty, it's the deep stuff that we talk about that gets people's attention, you know. So it's just a good way just to bring it down and help everybody on their path.
I love how you're very real about that person as well, because you'll just come out and say something about their personality that some people would be like, holy shit, I can't believe you just described my mom in that way, because it's so true, but no one would ever say it.
Yeah,
But you say it. And I think that that's something that makes it real for the person who's receiving that message.
well, that's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. Because sometimes I do feel that can I be do I come across rude, or do I come across you know, too blunt? Do I come across, you know, with my directness? But then one, I just can't help who I am. Like, and Pete, if you just give me the chance to get to know me, I'm not a nasty person, or I'm not. You know, I wish everybody well, and you know, I'm very compassionate about this work. But again, when I explain the story of how my ego, which we haven't got time to talk about now, surely, but how about when I tell people about what that value when I had that reading with that lady and all the rest, it taught me a valuable lesson. And again, it's about the lessons that we need to learn. So from that experience, if that hadn't have happened, I think I'd have always stayed on this path of like the ego, like, oh, look at me, like, but from that experience I had with that lady, it was like, actually, and the universe taught me thick and fast. Like I was just starting to, and I was like, yeah, just starting out, and I was like, yeah, rein it in, you know, and I have done ever since.
It's amazing. Do you get nervous when you know that there are people in the audience that you're close to?
Kevin, I get nervous doing this. Kevin, like seriously, like Kevin, honestly, I'm a nervous wreck. It doesn't one to one, a group reading, a live show. Oh my goodness, Kevin, I'm a nerves. Honestly, I fight against it because I think I'm here for a greater purpose, and I go against my own kind of how I feel because a lot of it can be ego driven because you're concerned about how you look, how you are. So it's kind of like, yes, I'm nervous, but I've just learned to like, we've got to push that to the side and I've got to allow, I'm just a conduit of information. And once I do begin and everything else, and yeah, the nerves get obviously clear and stuff. But yeah, yeah. But the audience in London was amazing. Like the
It
way
was
that
a
they
great
received
show.
me, it really. Like, yeah, well, thank you for saying that, and and I think that helps massively as well with the nerves and stuff. Because if you get an audience that's like really not interested, it's like how you were saying about people that are skeptical. You get kind of I did a show, for example, a couple of months ago, and one lady sent me the whole room. The energy was a little bit depleted, and I think there was a lot going on behind the scenes for me. I literally had like a massive like anxiety, panic attack. Not sure what it was, but I just or asthma attack. Sorry, and I was like, I just couldn't. And I literally, as I'm about to go out, when the video, the introduction's playing, I was like beyond state, nearly being sick, and then I've come out. But I was like, I need to put that to one side because I'm here to do something. Um, and then one lady sent me some horrible, or one guy, whoever it was, sent me some horrible messages. But that was just coming from an ego point of view of like, I've seen so much better. Well, you're just trying to promote someone else. You're just trying to be egotistical, like, oh, my friend's better than you, and I'm, like, seriously, you know,
One thing you do that's different to most people, you do sort of the meet and greet afterwards. And I think that's quite
yeah,
brave because that's when you could come into contact with those people that felt they had a negative experience. And
yeah.
so how do you deal with that if someone comes up to you and says something negative about the show?
Um, don't know. It's never really, a lot of the time you'll be surprised that not many people actually say it to your face there and then. It'll be after you've gone or after you'll get a message on social media or after you'll get. But it's very rare. And if I do, I always say if somebody's really et up about something, I'll just say to them like, look, now's not the right time. Message me direct. I know who you now are, and we can talk about it. Like I'm willing to give you the like half an hour of my time, even if it's just to talk, not because for a reason or anything, but just to put you at ease and understand it more. When you're in that like there's a big room and then also for every three a couple of people that might think, oh, it's not what I expected or I didn't enjoy it, the others did. So then it's kind of like I have to be careful to make sure that nobody because I have like the most amazing followers, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, like so thank you to all my followers, or thank you to the people that have been on this journey with me and helped me get to where I am today so far. And you know, and I don't want to cause any clashes, like because and so I just have to I just have to feel the energy of like,
Mm-hmm.
come and speak to me after. So yeah,
Being a part of the audience is also like for myself. I have to admit I sat there and sort of sat towards the back and I was like, oh my gosh, if he comes towards me, it like makes your heart beat a little bit faster. Um, but I had a friend with me who has a very large personality, and she actually sat at the very, very back, and she was like, I hope he doesn't come near me. Like she was totally afraid of that. She loved the show
yeah,
and loved being there, but she was afraid of a message, any message that would come to her. And I thought that was really interesting because if you spend time with her, her personality is larger than life. But when you come down to those personal things, people can shut down. And so I guess my question is, if you're receiving a message and you look at the person and you know who's getting that message and you feel like they don't want to receive that message, what would you do?
This has happened a couple of times. I would. I've had people come and speak to me backstage. I've told them like I need to come and speak to you after, and a lot of the times, and I probably said it at London, I can't recall, but I should normally say, "Am I okay to dive a little bit deeper here?" I ask for their permission. If I feel that there's something that they wouldn't want to share, and it's quite delicate, then I'll try and say it in like a roundabout way, just to ease them into like I know where you're going with this.
I think you sort of did that as well during the show a
A
couple
few
of times.
times. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I do recall. I do recall. And I remember that one lady being really emotional, who
Yep.
I gave a little hug to. And like I say, though, Kevin, the work's not about me, and I don't care about just because I'm up on stage doesn't mean that I'm any better than anybody. You know.
Yep. Would you give a negative message to somebody?
No, somebody else asked me this before, like, but I don't deal with negativity because then again, it's just the ego, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, look at me. I just say it the way it is. I see a death in the family, or I see this, and no, I just don't. And if I see, answering your question of like, if I see anything negative,
Hmm.
think of, I remember going for a reading with a lady, and the lady said to me, oh, this is when I'd like 16, 17, a different lady, or, well, no, actually, I'd started doing readings at this point, so I was about 20. And I went to this lady, everybody was like talking about her around the area, saying how good she was. She was like, oh, I see something really bad happening this year. I am then like, on the edge of my seat, what? Like, because
Yeah,
she's like, oh, I don't know where, why, and when, but there's going to be something negative just like I gave for her this year. So I was like, well, that's great, you know. So for that year, I remember feeling like on edge with everything. I remember
sure.
thinking like, is this the bad thing? Is this the bad thing? And I always swore that I'd never leave somebody the way she left me. So if I see something negative, Kevin, if I feel something quite negative, then what I'll do is, if I don't know where to place it, it's a bit like me being your sat nav and leading you to a closed road. You don't want to know about the closed road. You want to know where the diversion is, and that's where I'll help you. So yeah, if I see something negative, I'll try and say it in a roundabout way, but give you the guidance that I feel that you need connected to that. And I think a lot of that come up as well, Kevin. If you think of like families that weren't speaking or something, there was like a lot of, and I always say to people, deal with it how you want to deal with it, because you're here, not me. But I'm giving you the tools so that you're more prepared that when that does happen, it helps.
Sure. Because that must be a horrible thing. And you also hear a lot of negative stories where people say that I've gone and had this reading and they've told me this, and they wait for the day and they wait for, like, they're just so specific about things.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
was speaking
That's
to a
all. Sorry. I was just going to say that's all ego driven from the.
it is.
I just don't. If you think about it from the reader's point of view, that's just them trying to look like, oh look, I told you that was going to happen, and look at me, look at me, look at me, and they're not caring about the client in front of them.
I was
So
speaking to a friend today and she said, oh, I went to see a psychic once my father passed away, and she told me something about a White House, and I was going to see this, and it was going to mean this. And she's like, I looked for it for a year, nothing ever happened. And but it plays on your mind because you're waiting for that to happen.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But don't get me wrong, there might be things that I see symbolically that, but with a negative connotation might instantly, because my job, whether you come to see me in live show, private reading, my job is for me to leave you better than when I found you. So I'm not doing that if I'm sending you down the road closure.
I
What
think
I'm there to
everyone
do.
leaves your show smiling and feeling positive.
That's nice. I hope so. I hope so.
I felt that leaving the show in London. I felt everybody left very positive. Everybody was and people are talking to each other, whether they're strange. In London, that doesn't happen, and so
Yeah,
everyone's kind of out chatting and uh, in that queue for your meet and greet, which they love. I think that's a great
yeah,
little touch, and
yeah.
yeah, everyone just sort of left positive, and I know my group did, and we left. We went to a pub afterwards, and it was like the topic of conversation, and
Oh,
everybody was
really?
like, "Oh, this story was amazing," and when he touched on this, and I think if every group leaves feeling that way, that's something magical.
Oh, thank you for such kind words. Well, that's what all I can hope for, and that's all I want to achieve. So, you know,
And it's a great show. So, and you're currently on tour. So, anybody who's listening that says, "Oh, I missed that show," check him out online and buy a ticket because you will not be sorry that you did that.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Thank you.
It's really a great experience. I was really impressed. Going into it, I was like everybody else, where you're like, "Huh, what is this going to be like?" Because we've all experienced a negative. We've all had the negative experience. So no, it was very positive for everybody. And in the group that I was, just my group, there were a couple people that were like, I'm not too sure I'm going to like this, but we all left feeling the same way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So that was great. So check out his website and go see his show.
Yeah. Thank you.
I
Yes.
like to end my little conversation with a few quick fire questions. They're just fun, and it's just a great
Okay.
way to end the conversation. So
Okay.
let's just move right into it. What are you most excited about at the moment?
Oh, we get married in August, so the wedding.
Very
So
nice.
yes, yes.
Very nice. If you could spend one day in someone else's shoes, who would it be?
John Edward,
Ooh,
who's a famous
I,
psychic medium.
I love John Edward.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
Achieving what your dreams and goals are. Doing something that you've always wanted to do, or achieving something that you've done, not what other people or. And I'm not talking fame, fortune, or anything like that. I'm talking about things that you want to do for yourself. Like this to me is an achievement. Like being on this podcast with you, but doing the small, like there's so many, but it's what feels right for you in your heart.
Nice. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Fun, loving, caring.
Beautiful. What are you most afraid of?
When you say this though, you're talking like because like
Anything.
spiders. And then getting up on stage or doing readings. No, I'm teasing. Yeah, spider. If that's the kind of yeah,
Anything. Yeah.
spiders. Yeah,
Okay. Your favorite number.
5.
Why is it 5?
Because everything in my life is associated with the number 5. So yeah,
Who inspires you?
parents.
What is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
Don't quit and don't listen to other people and do what's right for you. And also, don't be well. I'd say a few things, so I do apologise. So don't be afraid of losing people along the way in terms of not like losing them passing over, but just where you change. It's okay.
If your life was a story, what would it be? What would be the story?
Guy who helps millions of people and bring comfort to many people in different ways, not just from readings, just from the meditations, from healing as many people as I can. That's what I would love my story to be.
Name the first word that comes to your mind.
The first word that comes to my mind. I actually saw my name, David. Is that bad? That's really strange.
What time of day are you most inspired?
uh, oh no, all day. Like seriously, like I'm just 24/7 in terms of always. When I work really hard to achieve, like I was saying to you earlier, but to get those. I always say to people, if you want to win the lottery, you've got to get off your backside and buy a ticket. Otherwise, you're not going to win the lottery. So, I'm that's it. Like literally, first thing in the morning, I'll be like thinking of ideas and very creative.
Who's the person you talk to when you need a listening ear?
My fiance Megan.
Do you believe in zodiac signs?
Yeah, but on a deeper level through astrology. So birth charts and all the rest of it.
Okay. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
What makes you laugh?
Um, Kevin Hart comedians. Good comedians. Good comedians. That don't go too deep or disrespectful.
If you could teleport, where would you go?
Oh, New York or Australia.
What object do you lose the most?
You're not going to believe. Like seriously, maybe my keys. Maybe. But I'm so like everything's got its like seriously. I'm very structured.
If you could make one wish come true right now, what would it be?
Heal the world of cancer.
Where is your happy place?
with my fiance. And when she's singing, she's great.
That's beautiful. What's your favorite word?
Probably truth. Like I want people to speak the truths and just be truthful to yourself, be truthful to other people. So potentially true. True.
Last question. Can you feel colors?
Yes. Yes.
And how does that work?
So every color, whatever I feel, it's got like a vibration to it. Like everything's got a vibration, and our aura is different colors, and the chakras are different colors, and that's why sometimes you'll be drawn to. So I say to people, if you feel drawn to something or you're feeling in a certain way, just have a quick Google of what your chakras are, and then just see which one it's associated with, and you might find that like, oh, that's associated with that color, which then in return you'll then think that's why I'm wearing a lot of that color recently, or that's why I'm wearing, and subconsciously you wear these things, and you don't realize why, but then when you look into your chakras, you're like, oh, that makes total sense.
Why should somebody buy a ticket and go see your show?
Because it's an experience that I think they will walk away from, whether they're read for or not, which we've touched bases on, and give them, bring them uplift, comfort, and hopefully make them aware that there's something more than the physical bodies.
I loved our conversation. Thank you for joining me, even though you're unwell
Yes, thank you. Thank
on a
you for
Sunday
having me.
afternoon.
Yes, no, I really appreciate you and your time as well, and thank you for giving me your time as well. It's been fabulous. The quick fire questions really have caught me off guard. So, um, yeah, but no, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you.